Hello, Hockey World. How are you doing today? Hope you all have recovered from the trade deadline. And we are joined by Russ. And Russ, we just want to let you know that we just went live. So don't say anything that you normally do when you come on the air, which is just your normal.
So feel free to make fun of X Rink.
Normal tirades.
No, that was yesterday. That's so yesterday.
I know, I'm kidding.
All right. There's one thing I have to text you guys. I just realized. So Peter, we wanted to have you on. We all talked to each other for like 6 hours yesterday. So,
so you can talk for an hour. You can just
let's start the show and we'll go from there. Okay. So here we go. Hello, Hockey World. Today is March 2nd, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello. Go, Peter.
I'm Peter Tassian.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Eklund, and I just ate something chewy. Ma'am, you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to help get you through your day and through the hockey world. And now that we're through the trade deadline, there's less than 100 days until the expansion draft, the NHL draft / trade deadline, which I call it now, and the UFA days. So we are still in the heat of it. We're still right in there. We're like in January in comparison to when the trade deadline happens, kind of.
For those who were disappointed in yesterday, I think most people are saying that this could be one of the more wilder summers because of the expansion draft, because of the whole roster manipulation that's going on, and I think a lot of teams are looking to sort of reset themselves and reshuffle their rosters, and this will be more of the opportunity to do it than what happened yesterday, which, I mean, it was just choked. I mean, there were so few teams that had the cap room to be able to do something.
Yeah, I mean, the salary cap's played a huge role in everything. The fact cap is going flat this year, and frankly, I don't think there was a lot of interesting options out there for deals too. Like, I just think the quality of player who are going to be UFAs this year didn't really play into the rental market that much. It just wasn't that intriguing.
Well, I mean, bring up what you were mentioning before the show regarding the Canucks, because Russ and I both thought that Jim Benning did a pretty good job moving Hansen, moving Burrows, getting a couple young players, finally starting what I think the Canucks have needed to do, which is a reset or a rebuild. They're not going to be able to completely do it because they have those big contracts of the Sedins still on the books for another year or so. But I thought he did a pretty good job. But
he did.
Well, I mean, what ended up happening, right, was, Benning did something that was un-Benning-like. He actually did something that was good. He made a deal where he didn't actually hurt his team, and in fact may have increased the chances to improve it. So a gentleman out of Vancouver named Scott Brown, who was a great sort of fun addition out there, he tweeted out on Tuesday night that there were random fireworks going off in Vancouver, and I sort of quote tweeted it and just said, well, that's because Benning finally made a trade that helped his team. And there you go. I mean, it's the amount of Jim Benning jokes yesterday on Twitter were about Shovel Dayoff being like Jim Benning was astounding to me, at least in my feed. That's a little jet-centric.
Well, I mean, I really do much, but they did move Stanford out. I thought which was good. They got something for Drew Stafford.
They got a 6th-round pick. That's not much.
Yeah, I know, but
they saved themselves.
They saved money.
That's more than Buffalo did with a couple of their free agents. So hey.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they saved themselves $800,000, and like I was talking about before the show, there's a lot of heat this morning and then we can talk about a few teams that didn't make moves or that made moves that were sort of questionable, but a lot of heat on Tim Murray today, because you gotta factor this in. Going into the deadline, the Sabres, I mean, maybe 4 or 5 games ago, they were within a point or two of the wild card spot. Then they lost in regulation to Colorado, the worst team in the league, Arizona, the second worst team in the league, and then blew a 2-goal lead against Nashville and lost in overtime. It was over with. Everybody knew it. It was done. Okay, you're sellers now. Now that doesn't mean you trade Evander Kane for whatever you can get, but you had rental guys, Franzen, Kulikov. A lot of teams were looking for defensemen. And at 301, nothing happened. And everybody's like, what the hell did you do, Tim? And he was not exactly, Mr. Friendly and Fluffy at the press conference after the deadline.
No, he really wasn't. And it's a tough spot for Buffalo to be in, because by one token you can sit there and say, okay, obviously, there was nothing out there for the players that they would like to have moved, but gosh, you have to think there was. I mean, just to me, the PA Parento move, this first 6th round draft pick was the most shocking move of the day, because Parento was definitely worth more than a 6th round pick. And I talked.
It was a bad market. I mean, the market was bad.
Yeah, it was, because I talked to so many people today who said to me, "What do you think happened with Verbata?" That was the biggest
Right.
comment today among people on the phone, and I got a lot of people who kind of agreed with what I had said, which is that I think this is a case of a young GM who basically put it out there, because I had heard a couple of days ago, and I wasn't allowed to report it until yesterday, that basically the asking price was just a 1st round pick. First person, he basically went out there with a simple memo to everybody: first round pick gets Verbata. That's how it goes. And he was going to stick with that until the end, even if he wasn't going to go down to a 2nd or a 3rd or a 4th. And on one token, you can say short term, that's ridiculous, right? Because Verbata's not going to be back. Long term, this is a young GM trying to prove that he means what he says when he goes out and tries to make a trade request, right? So if he suddenly takes a 4th round pick, then the next time he says anyone who puts a 1st round pick, he would have been like, and he gets a 4th round pick, then it doesn't matter, right? So you have to sort of take it into account that he's setting the tone, and sometimes that's what happens with these GMs, because this is not. Well, getting rid of Verbata is great, but at the same time,
Verbata's hard to deal with too, in the sense of where you're going to deal them.
Right.
There are always provisions with him, and so that I'm sure that was a part of it. End of the day, I was surprised that Shane Doan didn't get moved somewhere for his benefit. Now, if he comes out and says, I didn't want to be moved, I'll leave it alone. But I haven't heard him say that yet. And so I got to believe there was some place somewhere that would have taken Shane Doan for some sort of conditional pick. I got to believe that.
Yeah. Well, you can set the tone all you want if you're Chaika regarding Verbata. But here's what I think. He's $1 million contract, but you sign a ridiculous deal with the bonus structure of having a $250,000 bonus for every round that he wins.
A structure, by the way, that was set up for the trade deadline, because no one really thinks Arizona is going to go multiple rounds in the playoffs, right? So this is
if the goal of them was to have him on the roster and then flip him at the deadline, you don't agree to that, because there are teams out there like, say, Chicago, who might have been interested, we don't know, and they're never going to agree to a deal of that structure, because they have salary cap problems going forward. So that if their intent was to flip him at the deadline, you don't agree to that type of bonus laden contract. Now that could be the inexperience of the general manager, that could be just simply I mean, if the agent had put that out there, then Chaika was not smart to agree to it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that he has only himself to blame. I mean, great, he can ask for a 1st round pick, but we're talking about a guy who's 35 years old, who got injured last year close to the deadline, where Vancouver couldn't get a return for him. I mean, this is a screw up of Chaika's own making.
Yeah. But this it's sort of happening everywhere, right? Are you guys getting an echo on me?
Yeah, we did.
You're fine.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Anyways, I mean, it's happening. Like, you could also look back to Vancouver and say, well, why aren't they getting rid of Miller? And unless they have some reason to re-sign him, but I mean, Miller should have been.
Miller will only go to West Coast teams. It definitely limits it.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? I knew he's picky, and I knew it was probably American teams.
No, that's what it is.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains things then. So,
have you ever watched Hockey Wives, Peter?
Yes.
Miller's wife's a big part of that show.
But here's the thing.
Good.
In the betting criticism, which I really think is unfounded, yes, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but they do have a 0.4 chance. That's a realistic thing. I'm just saying that's real. They traded for Brandon Sutter. He's got 15 goals. They traded for Gabranson. He's played well. They traded for Goldobin. He will be on the team next year. Like, I think people just pigeonhole this guy for no reason. I don't see where he's doing bad things for his team. Actually, compared to some other GMs, he is accelerating his team a little bit while not giving up the farm.
I'm not fully blaming Jim Benning for the failings of the Vancouver Canucks, because we all know that the ownership is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs if they think that team is going to compete for a playoff spot. You've got the Sedins at the tail end of their career. They're still good players, but because you have them locked up to pay them $14 million this year and next year, you have to go under this complete fallacy that they're going to be a playoff team. They're not. They're not going to, Ryan Miller has played great this year.
Yes.
They're playing well. You just mentioned Sutter. And they're what are they, 7-8 points out of a playoff spot? It was a pipe dream to think that team was going to be competitive.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of it.
I mean, but they are, you're right. I mean, I think the Miller thing had more to do with something beyond what we know about. I mean, I think that whether or not Miller just said, I don't want to move. We don't want to move right now. I just don't want to.
Well,
and for the other people killing the trade, and I like Jared McCann, but I put like in parentheses because I don't think he's a superstar or anything. For Springfield, he's got 10 points in 23 games. There's a while to go for him to develop. He got rushed, and Benning probably didn't see what he liked in him to fit his club, and he got a defenseman in the trade. Like, in this market, that's pretty good. I'm sorry.
Look, Benning's moves are just kind of a puzzling. I mean, forget the return on things. There's sort of a puzzling mismatch of things that people don't see until now. Mm-hmm. Like, I think all of a sudden, even and believe me, Canucks fans, particularly in the blogosphere, have some of the most cynical fans out there.
Oh yeah,
and critical and some of the ones
American like.
And while a certain segment of them have earned some praise, it's not that there's not an arrogance that comes with them. Mm-hmm. But I think now all of a sudden, Benning's not only bought himself some goodwill across the fan base, but he's showing that, wait a sec, now you can sort of see the plan. You mm-hmm. couldn't really see it before. Mm-hmm. Now you start seeing it a little clearer. He's got some work to do this summer, but the Canucks could be a very interesting team come the fall when the season starts, because there's going to be reasons other than just hoping they can challenge for the playoffs to watch them, which is what they need, because they're not going to be a playoff team, but you need something to draw the people back in. And now there is a reason.
Right.
Well, Russ, the fact that they got Gudbranson, and Gudbranson's a solid defenseman, even though some of the analytics people hate his guts. The downside was he's in the last year of his deal, he's an RFA. He was making a little less than $4 million. That probably was the price range that was acceptable for him. Now, as an RFA, with the prices that defensemen normally get, he's probably a $4.5 to $5 million a year defenseman.
Sure, but they can give him a bridge deal if he's not in their future plans, and they still got a defenseman for 3-4 years. I mean,
here's the thing. And I want to talk about this for a second, because I got a lot of people today sending me requests looking for the winners and loser blogs, which is what everybody, like last night by 5:00 p.m.
I know.
For the trade deadline. Okay, so by 5, they're winners and losers blogs. And the Ducks did make a trade. I told the Ducks I would never carry them and cover them again. They made a very minor league trade at like 5:00 at night.
Yeah, you want to know the motivation for that trade, Ak?
Sure.
The motivation for that trade was Dallas Aikens is the San Diego Gulls coach, and he got 2 former Toronto Marlies.
Okay.
Who he went to a Calder Cup final with. And Sam Carrick and Spencer Abbott. And, by the way, Nonis is in that organization, so is Carlisle, so they know these players for basically nothing. That was the motivation. It was a minor
motivation. But here's the thing. I have a really hard time with winners and losers of drafts right away. Like, and it depends. I think how you depend on, I think there's 2 different ways of looking at this. Like I went on a radio show last night and I was asked the question, and I said, well, there's who won right now, like who won based on what's happening for the rest of the season. And then there's the winner long term, right? Which is completely different. Like I think the winner of this draft is the Minnesota Wild right now. Like, and I think because the 2 players they got, even though they gave up a lot for them,
on face value, yeah, that's fair.
Both those players combined with what is already with one of the top teams in the NHL, they to me become the winner of the draft.
I'll be honest. To me, there's only one loser. There's one team I could say lost, and that was the New York Islanders, because inaction caused them to lose. They needed to do something, and inaction hurt them. I saw Arthur Staples post that players that they wanted didn't want to be moved, but I still have a hard time believing that a lot of these other players one of these players couldn't have fit in and helped their club, because we know better.
I think they waited out for Bada. I do think that.
That's fine, but if they waited out 2 or 3 guys, they got nothing.
No, they got nothing, and I think they focused a lot of their energies on Duchesne too, which
Sure.
is also.
But you got to have many more, irons in the fire. You can't,
Well, if you're looking at the race in the Eastern Conference for the playoff spots, Florida added Vanek for half the price for a 3rd-round pick and a guy who was in their minor leagues in Dylan McElrath. So that was a good depth move who can help them in their top 9. The Islanders did nothing. At least the Bruins, who are a couple points up in the Atlantic, at least they added Stafford. So that's a depth forward.
And that's a no-brainer for the Bruins. Just get some, Stafford. He's still got some game in him. He just doesn't have anything in him that's worthwhile to Winnipeg. But for the Bruins, new chance, fight for the playoffs. Maybe.
No, but here's the thing, Peter, and I'll use that one against the Islanders. You couldn't get Drew Stafford and pair him with Andrew Ladd?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you couldn't. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer for a 6th-round pick to give it a go. I mean,
no, it's a good point.
But I mean, the Islanders are in this race. They're a point behind Toronto for the wild card spot, and and Garth Snow didn't do anything. Now, okay, fine. If you were looking for that impact move, you were looking for Duchesne. I get it, but have a backup plan. And you didn't have to mortgage your future. I mean, I'm sure you probably could have gotten an effective forward, somebody who could help your secondary scoring for one of the 6 or 7 defensemen that you have in the organization that people would be interested in.
They still have 3 goalies. That's a failing.
Right. And see, and that was the other point when we were talking about Miller. If you notice that backup goaltender market, nothing happened. Halak didn't.
Halak didn't. That's true.
Yeah, and Boston still sits there without a backup goalie.
Yeah, Halak didn't move. Pavlik didn't move. Nobody moved. So nothing happened. And the thing is, with the exception of Pavlik, all those players had years left in their contracts, and nobody wants to lock up cap space on a backup goaltender.
They now
thought Boston would get Pavlik. I did. As the day went on, I thought that made. When I heard that rumor when it was passed on to me, I really thought that made some sense.
Here's the analogy I'll make with this. Now in this cap world, where the NFL also works with a cap, most teams, 99% of them, feel like if their starting goalie is going to get hurt, they're done anyhow. So now the backup goalie is really getting very little thinking about. You're not really thinking about it that much. To spend resources.
We've had this discussion before, and how I feel about it, but. The funny thing about that is that when you look at the teams that won the Stanley Cup or gotten the Stanley Cup Finals over the last several years, they've all done it as a result of having a strong backup goalie.
I know that, but but what I'm saying is the teams are so tight to the cap, they just won't put those extra resources, and they're going to ride their number 1 goalie and hope for the best. The teams that have 2 have done really good cap management or have drafted really well and have some homegrown guys sitting behind their starter. They're in good shape, like Pittsburgh's in good shape, but most teams aren't like that.
Yeah.
The thing with Halak was you could have had him for free on waivers, but what scared everyone off was another year at $4.5 million.
Correct.
What I never understood was why the Jets didn't trade Pavlik for him and have the Islanders pick up half the salary.
Right.
But Halak is an improvement over Pavlik.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 issues that people always argued about that. One, Alan Walsh is his agent. Chevy and Alan Walsh are whatever. I don't put a lot of stock into that, but whatever.
Alan Walsh, the best agent in hockey? That guy?
Yeah. But here's the other reason. What happens come the expansion draft?
Yeah. Yeah.
You might lose him. You're not going to protect Halak and leave Hellebuck there. So, it presented the same old problem that I think a lot of GMs are still trying to understand, is that they aren't able to model their expansion draft program, what they're going to do, until after the trade deadline because they didn't know who was where.
Right. But here's the thing about that. the expansion draft trades are still to come. Like we haven't really seen that could still happen.
Some of them have already been done. And by the way, first of all, in terms of the long term, because I mean, almost every single one of the deals that were made yesterday was a short term rental type of deal. The only one that may have long term ramifications is the Lazar deal with Calgary, because Lazar is a good player. It just didn't work in Ottawa. And that's a guy who was 21 or 22 years old.
Right.
I mean, he's a talented player, and he plays on one of those he plays in a top 6 role in Calgary. He could score 20 to 25 goals if things work out the right way.
Goldobin too is a long-term thing too.
Yeah, true. But I officially request I request a retraction on your prediction regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs, because the deal that they made yesterday was a sell deal, was a cap money deal. It was not a buyer deal.
They traded one of those 2 defensemen that you talked about?
No, we were talking about them taking on money, and they took on money.
I didn't say they wouldn't take on money.
Oh,
no, he never said that. We talked about that possibility.
The whole thing with me, and Russ will back it, we could talk about this at length, right? The whole thing with me is that they are not going to sell a defenseman.
Right.
That was the whole thing.
That was your whole thing, and you were right about that.
And after Connor Carrick got hurt, I said, now that was probably not going to happen, because but they did sell a defenseman. They traded Frank Corrado. Frankie Corrado, who amongst some of
I'm going to throw this case out of court, because
the best Lou Lamoriello could say about Frank Corrado was, well, he was very patient around here.
I'm throwing this case out of court because they were in on other players. They just didn't get it. If they would have gotten Filippo, you wouldn't even have come out and said this today.
No, because I would have been.
But they tried to.
No, but if they had gotten Filippo, Russ, I would have excoriated Lou Lamoriello for doing what I would consider.
Fine, but the fact that they went and reached for him.
But the thing is, I mean, look at the Filippo deal and what happened with Philadelphia. Philadelphia gave Tampa, I think it was a 4th round draft pick in that deal. If Filippo would have been traded to Toronto, I'm assuming that Tampa would have been doing the same thing, giving the Leafs a draft pick to take a contract off of their hands that they didn't want to pay anymore. It was basically that. That was a cap space opening deal for Tampa Bay. So,
and an expansion deal.
And that's what Eric Fair was, a 2003 first round pick of George McPhee, the general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights. So
not only are we throwing this case out of court, you're going to have to pay the court fees too.
Kiss my butt.
I will say this. After reanalyzing the Mark Streit deal, Eck, I was right saying the Flyers were not going to take on any money, because that 4.7% made that deal a complete wash.
Exactly. That's
so
why
they did not take on money.
Yeah, they didn't. You're right.
But they retained money.
No, but they really didn't, because of the way the salaries worked. That made it a wash.
That's the prorated amount.
The prorated amount to make it all even Steven across the board. So they actually didn't take on any money.
Wow.
Right.
Deep.
All right. We'll talk more about this.
Hockey's a business. Right, Nick? I mean, we have to stop looking at it like we're kids watching this game, and this is 1972 or 73. We have to, at least in my case, your guys was, the 80s.
No, I know what you're saying.
But the idea is, it is a $1 billion business. That's what this is now.
No, it is, and I thought this, we talked about this trade, and I thought it was pretty good, and I didn't think it was all.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean,
it was all business. I mean, people really were ripping it like to shreds, and I didn't think it was as bad as last year's at all. And I think that because there weren't these long wells. Last year we had 12 things happen after the deadline. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So this was a lot better.
Well, that was the good thing, because you actually wanted the show to go off the air, and I urged you to stay on for a couple minutes more.
Oh yeah.
You were up 24 hours, and it was worth it.
You're right. No, that Streit thing happened, and that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We got to even break it, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think everybody was looking for total numbers. And yes, do we have a little lull? Sure. And that's why I did that live report, and we all got a laugh. But the idea was, I felt like there were guys that I could analyze that were going back and forth. Not all were prospects, but not all were very well-known players either. But at the end of the day, Mark Strike getting flipped twice was something we had never really seen before.
Yeah.
And so, there were some things that really sort of, were interesting.
I haven't gotten the answer to whether the Flyers knew that he was going to be flipped. Like that, that's something I'm not sure about. Whether or not because I would tend to believe that they did.
Yeah.
But I don't.
They just wouldn't deal with Pittsburgh directly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And they also didn't have there was no one from Pittsburgh that they wanted. So
right.
I mean, they got a player they wanted out of Tampa.
Yes.
So it was a true three-way trade that way. Even though it wasn't directly a three-way trade. So a couple little Flyers news real quick. Edward Bellemare is now the assistant captain, having traded straight, which is really that's
I'm happy for the guy. I got to know him a little bit a couple of years ago. There was a young person in school, wanted to become a hockey writer, wanted to interview a hockey player. They asked me, could I get him a hockey player to interview? I got him Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. And I was on the conference call. The kid asked good questions. He was very thoughtful. There's probably, very few players that would be that nice to somebody who's never done an interview before. And I thought, wow, you know what? This guy's a really special guy. Now, look, there's a lot of nice players in the league. Don't get me wrong. But he really helped along the interview and helped the kid. And I just listened to the background. I literally did nothing. I made sure I just listened. And I was very impressed with him. And I'm always impressed with his character. And that's part of the reason he got this.
Yeah. Can I throw this out? Because the Kings are playing the Leafs tonight. And Jarome Iginla is playing his first game with the Kings. He'll make his debut. And he will debut on the number 1 line with Kopitar. And I think
I love it.
Yeah, but doesn't that smack of the desperation for offense that they have?
What that smacks of is, if you read my article, Mike, which clearly you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Remember, he said he feels like he just needs to get out of this funk and the scoring will come. What better way to get out of the funk than having Anze Kopitar digging the puck out of the corner for you?
I don't buy into these.
What better way to start?
Listen, so he starts on the first line. What does that mean? I mean, we've been through this so many times now. Okay, it means he starts on the first line of the game.
It means that they're so desperate for offense that they're putting a guy who's probably a second or third liner on the top line.
No, what it means is they're starting him that way to get the emotional jolt that you get from a player when he's just been traded there. To get that energy that you get from a player when he's just been traded there. They're going to ride that. They're going to ride that momentum as long as they can. And if he's not going to spend the rest of the year on the first line, he's just going to be there tonight. And if it does well, he'll be there again. But one of the big things about getting a trade in a trade deadline is that energy that comes with that player on a new team, and that's a huge part of it. That's like that you'll see football. Tonight probably play out of his mind for the Flyers. He'll probably have a great game, and that little bit maybe gets the Flyers a couple points. And for every point matters so much for the Kings right now. That's what you got to do.
Iginla still has the passion. That's the one thing I walked away with. You could hear it when we played the interview yesterday. He still has the passion. He wasn't one of those guys that was just saying the right thing.
And I'll tell you what else I think this might be a little bit. I mean, this is a small – I think they would do this anyway, but this is a small thing. Remember all the questions about Sutter and Iginla?
Yeah.
Shuts them up once and for all, right? Because Sutter's decided to start him on the top line. So that's so he doesn't have a problem with Iginla. So there's that going to be that message that goes out there too.
There's another little story with this that I didn't quite get all the pieces for, and I know it's out there somewhere. He's wearing number 88. Now, apparently when he was a kid, he bought a Kings jersey and put 88 on it, but I don't know why he did that.
He's the first player to wear number 88 for the Kings, too.
Yeah, but why would he buy a Kings jersey and put 88 on there?
That's who knows? I mean, I
know, I got to find that out, but that's what I thought I saw a quote from that he said.
My first jersey was a Boston Bruins jersey just because someone had it and they gave it to me.
Right.
Yeah, and I put a 1 on the back of it, and then became a Gilles Gilbert fan at the time for a while. It's like it's how. So I mean,
Gilles Gilbert. I mean, I met him a couple of years ago. Nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first player that I was a fan of, even though I was a Flyers fan. But I didn't have a Flyers jersey. I had a Bruins jersey.
He's still out there, Rick. We could get him on the show if you want to chat with him.
It'd be fun, actually. I'd like to meet him.
Well, I think Gaborik wears number 12, so that was his jersey number that he wore in Calgary. So I'm pretty sure that Gaborik wears 12.
Oh no, okay. He bought a Gretzky jersey, so he bought. I thought I saw somebody say he bought an 88. So clearly he bought a 99, but now he's just going to go with 88 because it's close, I guess.
Rouse, I wanted to get your opinion as the official spokesperson for animals on the show about the PETA criticizing the NHL's use of penguins during the Stadium Series game.
Yeah, I think PETA can go overboard sometimes. I didn't see any problem with it. I never saw. I mean, I understand one fell over, whatever, or a couple fell over. I didn't think any of them were ever in danger. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with, now that you asked me, is like when I see a horse at like the Denver Broncos games when they're shooting off fireworks and they have, you know, a Bronco on the field. That I have a problem with, because even if you're drugging that horse up, horses are so scared of noises like that. It's not even funny. The average person may not realize it, because if you haven't ridden horses, I have. But I don't think the Penguins were in trouble.
Well, they were. The Penguins and the fireworks were a big part of this too. They were worried about that too. This is from PETA. It's inherently stressful for wild animals like penguins to be hauled around, used as props, exposed to noisy crowds, with or without explosives going off, PETA's president said. PETA is calling for the only penguins on the ice at Heinz Field to be humans on skates.
Get a life, please.
I think
they
PETA
should have
does
had a penguin race on the ice. Everyone loves penguins. Get a whole bunch of them on the line. Everyone places a bet down 1 to 20.
No, you don't want that. I think
penguins are cute.
PETA does a lot of great things to raise awareness, and they do protect animals. Sometimes they go overboard, though.
No, I think I'm a big believer in PETA. Nothing wrong with that. I do agree, though.
This is terrible. No, this is not. I mean, this is really funny and not funny at the same time. But I think everybody will get a kick of this. All right, so hold on. This is what they're worried about, and I do understand this, and everything about this does feel wrong in every which way. Obviously, penguins are not used to fireworks going off. It's not something that happens all the time in Antarctica.
Penguins in the movie Madagascar drove a ship.
That's right. Those penguins were awesome, though. All right, so here's the GIF of the penguins and the fireworks going off. The penguins taking off. Penguins are just silly by nature. This is not, I think the thing about this that it is wrong. Obviously, they should have probably gotten him out. They should have gotten him out of there before the fireworks. I think that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, it would have been the better thing to do. But I remember seeing it happening and didn't think they were completely scared out of their minds. But look, everything scared of fireworks. That's true.
Exactly. I think compared to being chased by a harbor seal, this is probably not high on the level of penguins' ears. Yeah. It does remind me of a joke that I have to bring up the story. I bring it up all the time, but I haven't brought it up in a while. But of the first time I went to see Sidney Crosby's very first game, the first time I went to cover Penguins game was Sidney Crosby's first game in Pittsburgh. And it was the opening night, it was against the Flyers, and they brought out some penguins onto the ice. And as part of the ceremony, it was the theme was the March of the Penguins, which movie was out at the time. And they have they show the movie on the big screen. And then they zoom down to the camera. They zoom down to ice level, and 5 penguins have wandered onto the ice. Actual penguins have wandered onto the ice and are running around. And the guy next to me says to me, my favorite quote of all time at a hockey game, says to me, this season's going to be just like last season. Five penguins running around their own zone, not knowing what the hell to do. And it was awesome. So
actually, my failing reading, Iginla really did buy a Kings jersey and did put a number 88 on it. I have when he's 10 years old. I have no idea. He doesn't even explain why he did it, but he did it.
There you have it.
Wow, I would have thought for sure it was a 99, so I stopped reading. But whatever.
There is a whole set of transaction rules that were set up today by the NHL for the Vegas expansion draft.
Yes,
they just came out like a little bit ago, so I have to go through these. But so go through some of them here. So the first thing, here are the guidelines of the NHL as to what you can and can't do.
Okay.
There's a little bit of legalese involved in this. So, all right, the first point, bona fide transactions. Effective today, Vegas may now enter into trades and waiver transactions or sign players to NHL SBCs, which is
standard player contract.
Standard player contract, right, in accordance with the CBA. Any bona fide transaction involving current players must specify the identity of each and such players. Okay, so Eligibility for bona fide transactions is this: only players who've completed their 2016-17 season can be included in the bona fide transaction. So they can't. We knew that they can't sign somebody. They can't take somebody right now and not let them play.
They have a jump, and everybody else can do this too. But they can sign KHL free agents once those teams have been eliminated from the KHL.
Right. Player who Vegas has agreed to claim or not claim in the expansion draft as part of the bona fide transaction will similarly be required to have completed a 2016 season before the transaction can be completed and approved. A player is considered to have completed it if he's played under an NHL contract or an NHL club or one of the NHL club minor league affiliates for 2016. Okay, so waiver priority order. Vegas will be placed in between second and third to last place clubs in the waiver priority order.
I don't understand that. Why won't they be last?
I don't know.
Well, they're not last in the draft. I mean, they're not going to get in the first pick.
I know. It's just that, but for the waivers, they should be last.
Well, if they're placed between second and third, they are essentially third.
Look,
right? I mean,
this is the long-standing NHL protectionism attitude about Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, so they're basically made third because if they're placed between second and third, that's third in the waiver priority form, right? I mean,
yeah, but here's I'm just thinking about it. Mike's right where they'll have to jump on the KHL guys, but it's not like they're going to have to jump on college guys. Everybody pretty much will have the same boat on, so it's not that big of an advantage, really.
Right, and that's why I asked you the question this morning, Russ, about college free agents, because of somebody asked me about the Leafs, about them signing undrafted free agents. And, a team like Toronto, who's at 50 contracts, can't sign somebody and burn off the first year of a deal like other teams have done. They can only sign them for the 2017-18 season. Vegas can't burn a year of the deal because they're not even playing yet, but they can sign these players to entry-level contracts. So they could, they would have an advantage. I mean, and also a college free agent, they have a chance to literally jump into the NHL next year. It's not like they have to battle against a lot of players. If they go to Vegas, that might be an attractive, attractive part of going to Vegas is the promise that they'll get a legitimate shot at playing in the NHL coming out of college.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm going to tell you that there's a chance right now that there's a really good. He's not, I won't say like Jimmy Vesey level, but there is a really good prospect out there, Will Butcher, who plays at the University of Denver, who is still unsigned by the Avalanche. He's 2 seasons of 30-plus points, so he's not a point a game, but he's close. But he's a defenseman. He's a good defenseman. He's 5'10", 190. He's an offensive defenseman, still unsigned. At some point, when he decides he's going to leave college, if he's still unsigned, teams are going to want his services. So maybe Vegas starts courting him.
Right. I found the most interesting thing about this, ready? The most interesting thing about this is any deal, quote unquote deal, which is like, we all think teams are going to start making deals with Vegas to.
Actually, this is his senior year in Denver. So right after this, he's going to go somewhere.
Right. So any deal that is said here, any deal that comes between two teams, which we all expect these these side deals that we've talked about, that teams are going to make, they have to be reported to the NHL, but they can be kept secret from the media until the waiver draft itself. How about that? So that's
wow.
So they are all teams involved as to whether or not they want to announce the deal publicly prior to the expansion draft. They'll be able to keep that secret until June. So we won't know the secret deals being made unless they leak, which I'm sure some of them will. But if they don't leak, there could be some things when we're watching the expansion draft that are baffling, like players being passed over like we don't understand, like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because those deals have been made. But will those, one of my question is, will those ever have to be released publicly, or will they be something that just Vegas could say, oh, we didn't like that player? But these do have to be reported to the NHL. So that's the strange thing about this. So,
I mean, what I think that is being done is to prevent any kind of backstab or misunderstanding in terms of a transaction. You could, if you're Tim Murray and you say, okay, well, I want you to take Zach Bogosian, and I'll give you Zemgus Girgensons in a trade to take Zach Bogosian, and then he trades Girgensons, and then he takes somebody else, Justin Bailey. Wait, I thought we had a deal here where you were supposed to take Zach Bogosian. And I never said that. Well,
you don't even have to announce the
NHL knows.
They don't have to announce the Gergensen deal. That's the thing.
Well, no, they can make after Buffalo's eliminated, after the season is over with, they can trade anybody because their season is over with. They can trade a player to Vegas because their season is over with.
No, they can do that. They can do that, like I said. But normally when those trades are made, they are made public. What I'm saying here is they actually don't have to make those public.
Right.
They can actually keep those trades public until the draft. So you could actually see those trades private until the draft. So that's why.
I think that's to the draft's benefit because I think Gary Bettman likes to announce those at the draft anyhow.
No, to the expansion draft.
To the expansion draft. Well, still, it'll make the expansion draft a little bit more of a happening.
This gives Vegas a big advantage because Vegas is now, Vegas can make other deals with teams. Like, say the Vegas already knows they're getting a goalie somewhere, but another team's afraid of them taking their goalie. So now by this deal staying secret, Vegas knows that they're not going to take the team's goalie, but that team's afraid that they're going to take their goalie. So they can actually now make a trade with that team.
So the league will know, but not other teams.
Right.
Okay.
Except for the ones that leak, and ones will leak. So I think
Except George McPhee's friends with a lot of GMs, and so I don't know how secret he'll keep it.
Yeah. George McPhee's got a lot of integrity riding in this.
Yeah.
And if he ever wants to be at the plate on any deal, he can't do anything that's going to upset the brotherhood of NHL GMs.
I don't think the integrity plays into this. I think
it does a little bit.
I think it does.
No, the rules are the rules. I mean, he's acting.
No, I get
he has to deal with these guys, Zach. He has to deal with general managers.
Oh, I know that. Believe me, no one knows that better than I do.
His first couple of years, he will be living and dying by making trades to make that team better.
And that's why also, like, he's going to want to get players that he knows on the first couple years of that franchise that he knows are dependable, that he knows will work, that he knows will work with young kids. That's why a guy like a Brooks might get signed as a free agent because he brought him to Washington. A guy like Eric Fair might get picked in the expansion draft, or he'd be part of something. That's one thing. He is going to pick players he knows.
Here's the other thing. Bringing up Butcher again, if I'm McPhee, not only do I court him the minute his college career is over, which will be some point, in the next few months, I will tell him I'll make you a 1 or a 3. How many other teams can guarantee you that?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the world that I deal with all the time and the way people are talk to each other about what's happening in different places. I can see there being huge problems with this.
I think he's going to be more transparent than the rules allow.
Yeah. I think this rule is designed to say, if you want to use the leverage this gives you, go for it.
Right.
And that's part of
no GM's going to hold that against him. I mean, no.
I think they will.
Oh, this is like
Survivor. They hold
Survivor.
other things against each other.
Not using leverage. I mean, this is an expansion team, for crying out loud. I mean, the best to do. He's going to have to use every leverage he has.
They've got to do this because this isn't a regular expansion team. This is a $500 million investment.
Right. Back
when the first round of expansion happened in 91 or 92 with the Senators and the Panthers and the Lightning, it was $50 million. It's chump change. That's contracts now. Yeah. And you know what? Everyone knew the deal's going on. I remember when the Canucks traded for Van Beesbrook so they wouldn't lose Kay Whitmore. It was out in the open. Now you're dealing 10 times the amount.
Right.
The draft is based around the fact that you can actually get some decent players. I'm not going to say good, but you can get some decent players. And they put this twist in so teams can make deals. But the onus goes back to McPhee. It still points to him. So if I'm Kevin Cheveldayoff, I can send McPhee a draft pick of something or other. And you won't take so-and-so and you'll take this guy. The onus is on McPhee now to say, okay, I've got this. How do I use that? It doesn't piss anyone off.
I mean, you're right. What you're saying, but it's not going to be completely. There's 2 teams in this deal, so whoever makes this deal could also disclose it publicly. They could say we've traded so and so to Vegas.
Here's what I liken it to: if this were Hell's Kitchen, the TV show, right, and I had just won the challenge, and they say, Russ, you could take one of the other cooks, and I'm assuming you all can cook. I know Eck can, to Vegas, and then I take Peter. Mike and Eck get pissed. Like, it's like, why did you pick him? Why did you pick us? Yeah. And if he starts working these things as a double blind, when he goes to the draft, he may find that other GMs are not going to be as willing to deal with him right away.
And to bring a reality show into it, this could also be like The Apprentice, where he makes a mistake and pisses off Omarosa.
Right. That's why I think you're going to see, like in my scenario, you're going to see the Gergensons deal. You're going to see the deal that is made for the reason that Murray wants to make a deal. You're going to see that announced. You're just not going to see, or it's not going to be revealed why that deal is made until the expansion draft itself. You want to tell Gergensons you're going to Vegas. You're part of that franchise. They want to announce the players that they're adding, but that doesn't have anything to do with the reason why they're doing that deal. So I think those deals, the deals that they actually are acquiring players, those will be announced when those deals are made. Just the ramifications of that will not be announced until the day of the expansion draft.
I don't know. I don't. Time will tell. I mean, I don't think this is the thing. I think you guys, McPhee's already got the respect of everybody. Okay, this is not like a brand new guy. This is a guy who's been in there.
No, but he could turn it the other way, is what we're saying.
No, because people are looking at him like he's got to do his best for his team in this situation. This is almost the equivalent of the offer sheet type thing, like where people are like saying, okay,
yes,
you make an offer sheet. That's a terrible. No, that's gone.
Yeah, but you know what? If somebody, actually, I disagree with the offer sheet thing, because clearly Kevin Lowe once he signed that offer sheet, that really killed his deal making ability. I feel like. What do you think, Peter? Right? Wasn't that pretty true?
Yeah, absolutely. And that totally changed everything. And
but that was a long time ago. Now offer sheets have gotten to the point where but now offer sheets have gotten to the point where Brian.
Well, this is new, Rick. This is new. And if a team loses a goalie because something like this happened, and they're not going to be happy.
Right, and that's the thing. McPhee has the respect of his compatriots, his other GMs, but that could change very quickly if he screws somebody over. And there's an opportunity here for him manipulating the system to screw people over. That's why he's going to have to be cleaner than Caesar's wife in this process.
We'll see how this plays out, okay? Because time will tell. But my feeling is he's going to have to do whatever he has to do to make this the best team he can. He's getting paid a lot of money. He's going
to ostracize himself from a lot of.
I've got 2 bits of breaking information. The first one is the Flyers have signed German Roop stuff, which we knew was going to happen at some point. So that's a big deal, because next year, if they really want to, they could send him to the AHL. We'll see if they decide to do that, or if they leave him where he is for another year.
Any chance they bring him up towards the end of the year this year?
No chance.
All right. I heard they might.
Nah, I don't think that's a good idea. I think let him ride out his year. Where's he? He's in the queue. Let him ride out his year in the queue.
Right, he's in the queue. But I mean, the last few, we've seen that before. The last couple games of the season.
Yeah, but he's not played enough games due to injury and stuff. I would not fool around with that.
And you could put him in the AHL. You could put him in the AHL playoffs.
Right. I would put him with Lehigh. Yes.
But they already can't do that. They can't get him in the playoffs now, obviously.
No, not now. But when his season ends,
which is maybe a little curious why they didn't sign him yesterday.
I don't think that matters. The other thing is
because the contract will start with next year. That's why.
Right. Okay. Sarah Baker reported, and this is good, that, and I think based on all the media coverage, that the Flyers are counting up all the hats that were thrown for the fake hat trick, and Jake Voracek will end up donating money to area hospitals. So that's nice.
Yeah. How I was told is
he's going to donate whatever those hats are worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
He doesn't have to do anything, Peter. Come on.
Yeah, about $6,000. Yeah, about $6,000, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually.
All right. Well, I think that's good. I mean, I'm fine with that. As always.
That's it.
Wow.
All right. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Thanks so much, Peter, for jumping on.
My pleasure.
We'll be back again tomorrow. Remember to check the projected standings and stuff like that I've got going on. Only 2 things changed last night. There were only 2 games. And one of those things, unfortunately, because when it's not just the teams that are playing that change, because when teams win or lose, that changes their points per game, and that changes when they play other teams. So unfortunately, based on the results of last night of the one game going to overtime, I picked both games were predicted right, but one of them went to overtime. Based on that, the Leafs fell down 1 point in the standings, even though they didn't play. But
and on Monday we will start our draft lottery simulator.
Yes, we will. Yes. We will bring back the draft lottery simulator for everyone to have fun with. So But tonight there's 10 games. So if you want to check out the predictions for my thing based on tonight, see if we can keep our streak alive of going. We're 2-0 so far. Let's see how far we can go.
I'll be watching Vanek and Filppula very closely.
Yep, for sure. And remember, guys, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.